We need to be aware that there is a God in heaven who put marriage together, and it's a lifelong commitment. So I think that is part of the point I'm trying to bring out here by showing marriage came from the same source as the Sabbath, which is God himself. Am I fine? We are fine with this? Yeah. All right. So it's a lifelong commitment. I think we looked at this here. Jesus talking about it, he mentioned that it should not be broken. He says you cannot divorce for any reason, and Jesus gives the conditions. Only when there is adultery can we, God teaches in his word. And what it suggests, therefore, is that when we have challenges, our first resort should not be, well, I think let me look for somebody else. I think I made a mistake. Let me try again. Our first trial should be to go to God, the same God who gave us marriage, and ask him to guide us and to be able to handle the situation his way. So I think you notice there, I don't know that I need to read the whole passage. I think you can be able to see it in Matthew chapter 5 from verse 31 and verse 32. And then you have another passage. Jesus didn't say it just once. He said it another time. So if you want to know that something is important, if it is repeated, then you know that it is important. And in this case here, some Pharisees had come to ask Jesus whether it was okay to divorce, and Jesus responded to them. And by the way, the reason why the Pharisees came to ask, I wonder whether I can take this off. I'm sorry. I hope I don't offend anyone. But I think you guys can see that the warmth of your church, you should be less friendly because the warmth, your all right. So there were two groups of people during Jesus' time. There are some who believed that a man can divorce his wife for any reason. If she speaks too loudly and the man thinks it's indecent, then you can divorce. Thank you. But there are others who believe that when the Bible says in Deuteronomy, when it says that if a man finds something indecent in the wife, then he may be able to give a certificate of divorce. There are some who believe that the indecency which was being discussed was issues of adultery. So now they are coming to Jesus to find out, which one do you agree with? Do we divorce for any reason? If she bends your supper and you don't like your supper bent, can you then divorce for that reason? Or is it that you only divorce when there is adultery? Well, Jesus gave his answer very clearly there. He says the only reason is adultery. Can you see that? All right? But Jesus goes beyond that. He goes beyond that. He actually says, don't you know that the one who made them in the beginning made them male and female? And therefore, the man will leave his house, his father's house, and be joined to his wife, and they become one. Remember, they've become glued together. And then Jesus is actually saying, when they have become one, they should not be separated. So if you read carefully what he is saying here, because you see, the people then said, but how come Moses said we can divorce? So what does Jesus say? In verse, I should use this pointer here. It feels nice. I didn't have toys when I was growing up. So now I have this little thing. I can use it for pointing even when I don't. So they said Moses commanded that we can give a certificate of divorce. And then he said, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, permitted you to divorce your wives. He permitted you to do it because of what? The hardness of your heart. And then it says, but from the beginning it was not so. Which means even with adultery, God's will is not for you to divorce because there's been adultery. But he allows us to divorce when adultery has taken place because of what? The hardness of our hearts. But actually, that's not what he wants. That's not what he prefers. What does he prefer? God prefers reconciliation. He prefers reconciliation. And in many ways, even when adultery has taken place, the family is better off if they can reconcile. Now, this is not an easy saying. Even the disciples said, this is a hard saying. They said it. And I'm having to say this hard saying. I hope you won't hold it against me. But if you hold it against anyone, it's not in my word. It's in the Bible. If there are marriages that are experiencing challenges, including adultery, God is challenging you to reconcile. But reconciliation tends to happen when the one who has offended is willing to change. There is a need for that. And if there is no willingness to change, you probably cannot remedy the situation. I hope no one goes home and says, maybe he or she is the one who committed adultery and then says, but the pastor said you should forgive me anyway. I hope he doesn't. I don't sound like that. Because God is not saying the one who has made the mistake can just continue doing that. I think God expects reconciliation. And reconciliation includes that the one who has wandered away should come back. And remember that he or she said, I forsake all the others. And when that happens, God's ideal would be for them to reconcile. And there could be ways in which they can be able to reconcile. I'm not saying it is easy. It is hard work. They would need to get professional help. And sometimes just going to your pastor is not enough because we will pray with you. And there may be other things we may not be able to help you to deal with. You may need to have additional help to deal with the situation. But you need to make the hard choices. The one who has wandered away needs to forsake what had lured them and to be separated. And then the one who is the offended one also has hard decisions, which include forgiveness, dealing with with quite a bit of pain, and being willing to work towards the healing that is needed. Notice I'm using the word healing because there is trauma which may have taken place when such things happen. I hope I'm clear there. Amen. All right. So Jesus made it very clear. He says, this was permitted because of the hardness of your heart. And I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for immorality and marries another one, commits adultery and so on. All right. So here's another passage. I'm sure you know this one in Malachi, where again God says, I hate divorce. So marriage is meant to be a lifelong union. And I'm highlighting this because, there are problems in families. People seem to choose the exit door, very quickly. Sometimes before they have had enough time to work on their problems. This because there are many young people. Young people, are you listening to me? The ones who are not yet married. Get married. You should choose to get into a lifelong commitment. Therefore, don't that decision when you are half dreaming. Ellen White says when you are contemplating marriage, if you used to pray twice a day, you should pray how many times? Pray 4 times. Pray 4 times. And make sure that you follow the guidelines that God gives you. Because you are getting into a lifelong union. Don't rush into things. Don't rush into things. And those who are married, we need to continue pursuing love. I come back to that statement there. Before we pursue divorce, let's pursue love. And I think that is important. I have, by the way, this verse not only says I hate divorce, it also says I hate violence. It also says, I hate violence. I think especially in the, uh, the next version that I used there. I can't remember what version that is. I think it's probably the New King James Version that says that. So sometimes there is violence that takes place in the homes. God hates it. God hates it when you try to control another person through beating them up. And we can also say when you choose to divorce someone, in a sense, you're also doing violence. There's emotional violence that takes place when people enter into divorce, and people are traumatized. There are souls that arise from there. And I think I will, yes, I'll mention it in just a moment. Yes, it is coming here. So marriage is under attack. Marriage is under attack, and I think I've already mentioned here, same-sex marriages, which society in different places is advocating for. Now, it is legal. It is legal, and I never advocate that we should fight the people who choose to go into that. They have the same free will as people who choose to drink or to do any kinds of things, and they may have legal protection, which I personally don't think I should be trying to fight against. They have those legal protections, but in terms of defining what marriage is from God's holy word, I think we know very well. But marriage is under attack from that. Then we also have polygamous unions, which it's not part of what God expects. And I do know some people say, but how come Abraham did it and David did it and so on? And fortunately, all the cases that they point to, they had problems because of the polygamy. So I don't have to answer that one. All I can say is the Bible tells the truth about what people did, including their mistakes. And many of them made those mistakes there. And we can see the pain that came as a result of the choices that they made. Then also under attack because of divorce and remarriage. I think I've already been alluding to this. And I want to mention that it has been discovered from a purely research perspective, purely secular perspective. It has been documented that second marriages have a poorer chance of succeeding than the first one. Did you know that? So, before you decide to divorce and say to yourself, I'll divorce and marry again, you should know that the second one that you are contemplating has a higher potential of giving you either the same problems or new ones. Now, some people have tried to theorize as to why second marriages have a poorer chance. And part of it is because the people who choose to avoid the difficulties of the first marriage by divorcing, they are the same people who are choosing to go into a second one, which means they are already prone to ending their problems through what? Through divorce. So the solution is not to divorce. The solution is not to divorce. The solution is to try to deal with the problems that are there. And that is what is needed. And I do not say it is the easiest thing. But I also want to say choosing to divorce may also not be the easiest thing. So this is important. Then, of course, Satan also brings in conflict. He brings in conflict in marriage so that people may decide, hey, we're not doing well, this is painful, and so on. But while they say we must continue together, but they live in misery. And that is not the solution. That's not what God really wants to happen. So there are also times when here what we are looking at now is what is it that causes marriages to have problems? And I don't want to propose that I know all the reasons, but I suggested I think about 2 or 3 reasons. And The first one I'm trying to bring up here is the fact that sometimes we experience tensions in marriage because there are problems elsewhere in life. And I'm illustrating it here. I don't know how clear this picture is, but there's the picture of, no. I think I pushed the wrong thing. What did I? Okay, I pushed the wrong thing. I wanted to point. You can see that this is a dog. You see that dog there? There is another dog here, and here is another dog here. There's a fence between them. I got that picture from the internet. I looked for it this morning, actually, as I was doing a bit of my preparation. I was thinking about it. I eventually found it. But it illustrates something which one of my colleagues told me. He has two dogs. No, he has actually a number of dogs, but two very powerful ones, very strong ones. He has those dogs that he keeps within his fence. He doesn't allow them to go out because they're a bit dangerous. But he told me that every once in a while, a strange dog from somewhere in the area passes by his fence on the outside. And his own dogs inside, what do they want to do? They want to go and bite it. They want to go and fight it. So they rush to the fence. The two vicious ones, they rush to the fence. And the gate is closed, so they can't get to the one that they want to go and bite. But they already want to bite. So what do? They turn on each other and bite each other. I thought a story that is being told from somewhere. I can take you to his house. He's my colleague. I work with him now. And he has dogs that do that. They want to bite a dog that's outside there, but it's out of reach. They can't reach it. So they end up biting each other because this one is close enough, I can bite it. Are you hearing me? These things happen in marriage. There are financial challenges out there. Maybe one of you loses a job and you are stressed. And you feel like beating someone and you don't quite know who to beat. So then what happens? What happens? Huh? You beat the one who is closest to you, who did not fire you from work. So you are already stressed. You have been looking for a job and you can't find it, and you are just unhappy with society. And you get home and the river is full just from being you know what I mean when I say the river is full? It's flooded. So somebody just says something, some innocent thing, and you burst up and you fight because this is the one who is in defense. These things happen. We are living in difficult times where there are social problems out there, and sometimes even the tensions that we experience is because we live in places where there is crime, and so we are always worried, always watching our back and so on. So when you get into the house, sometimes the smallest little thing triggers a volcano. And we fight each other for no good reason. When the real issues are economics, there may be children who have who have become rebellious. They have made bad choices. You are having to deal with a child whom you just discovered. They started using drugs. And so father and mother, you begin shouting at each other. And one of them may even say, it is because of you. The real problem is that one who is in the street. You understand what I'm saying? So before you begin fighting each other, try to understand what it is that is causing you stress. Otherwise, you will begin fighting the very one who should be helping you. I mean, the two dogs inside, they're supposed to be helping each other when a robber comes in. Even when this other dog, if it were to come in, they should be helping each other. But because of whatever reason, they begin to fight each other. And it often happens that husband and wife who should be helping each other, who should be supporting each other, who should be there for each other, watching each other's back, they begin to tear that very network which should be there, but it's because of external problems. So we need to be careful that this does not affect us. So failing to recognize that differences and even conflict in marriage is normal. Sometimes when there is just a difference in opinion, people begin to fight so that they insist on their own ways. I have there the picture of two rivers that are coming together. When two rivers come together, especially if they have a strong current, when they come together, there is a turbulence that is created there, a bit of confusion that happens. You understand what I mean? And sometimes maybe this river has brownish water, this one has grayish water there. When they come together, to begin with, the water doesn't even quickly mix together. It may just cause a bit of confusion, but a little further downstream, then you may find that it becomes fine. So quite often, when young married couples come together, they get married, they experience some revelations. They just begin to know some things about each other that they did not know. Hopefully, if one of them snores, they did not know about it. Hopefully, they did not know about it. You begin to find out that this person snores, but after you are married to them already, but that's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You can always get earplugs too if snoring bothers you. And I'm using that just as an illustration. Many of the things we could look for solutions for. There could be some very simple solutions for the things that we do. Sometimes marriages crumble because it's just two rivers coming together and it causes a bit of confusion. When I was a very young pastor, very young, I think that was even before I had a girlfriend. That was before I met that girl, later on. I told you about that. I was a young pastor. And I visited with one of my elders, and he started telling me things. And he revealed to me that he was in his second marriage. And then he told me that with his first marriage, he knew in the very first week that it was not going to work. In the first week, in other words, they were still on honeymoon. Now, I don't know whether it was the right thing that they eventually they didn't divorce each other at the honeymoon. No, I think they spent some years, but I think in his mind he already knew. But my point is that quite often people are surprised when they come together. They get surprises which make them think that it is not going to work, and yet we must not come to that conclusion. In fact, Ellen White tells us. I didn't bring the quotation. I should have added the quotation here. But Ellen White actually makes the statement that when you get married, once you are married, you should no longer harbor the thought that your union was a mistake. You should no longer keep entertaining the thought that maybe I shouldn't have married this one. That is no longer the thought. Before you are married, you should be asking that question, is this the right person? When you are married, don't ask that question anymore. What should you do? Make it work. Make it to work. And if you both choose to make it to work, it will work. Did you hear me? Now, there are some single young people here. Can I see those who are not married yet who are going to get married? Can I see? You are not yet married. What I'm going to say now, close your ears. I don't want you to hear. No, you don't need to literally close your ears. I want you to understand what I'm going to say in its perspective. I want you to understand what I'm going to say. Listen, this one is for you who are married. This is for you who are married. The single ones, you can close your ears, or you can keep them open, but don't let it confuse you. Once you are married, those of you who are married, you are married and you are both God-fearing, you can make it work. If you are both God-fearing and you are both committed to make it work, it will work for you. God will help you to make it to work. Now, I didn't want the single ones to hear to listen, because then they can become careless and say, I can marry whoever I want. They can even carry it a step further and choose one who is not even God-fearing and say, Pastor said it will work. That's why I wanted you guys to close your ears. It's important who you choose to marry, because you must also marry someone who will have that desire and willingness to make the effort to make it to work. So those are important elements. I need to speed on a little bit. So in handling differences, the differences that come, many people will approach differences with the view that if the person does something different from me, it means that other person is wrong. And that is not necessarily so. Sometimes differences can actually enrich us. They can actually complement who we are. They can help us. And so that is important. So many marriages then, when they experience these differences in opinion, they begin to do the wrong thing. And there's a man whose name is John Gottman. He has identified 4 different ways of dealing with differences, or we can say with conflicts in relationships. Those 4 different ways, if a couple chooses to use them, they are doomed to divorce. Okay, let me explain that again. In his research, which took, actually, I think maybe over 20, 30 years, where they were observing couples, he says they were trying to observe to see if there are certain things that if a couple does that, then it predicts that they are going to divorce. Are you hearing me? So if they do this, then you kind of know that they are going to divorce. And he says they had a rate of about 90% accuracy. In other words, if they see this happening in this couple here, if this is the way they deal with their problems, they are going to divorce. And he characterizes 4 of them. 4 of them. And in reading other literature, you find that there's literature which also seems to fall in line with some of this. And sometimes you can even find statements from Ellen White using different words, but referring to the same thing. And so what do we need to do? We need to watch out that we don't have these. Okay. We need to watch out that we don't have these. So when people experience difficulties, one of the easiest ways to deal with a difference with my spouse is to criticize them. In other words, to tell them that they have made a mistake, to point out where they make mistakes. So criticism, if my first language to my partner is to criticize what they have done or to criticize what they have said, I find fault with it. I say it is wrong. All the time I'm saying it is wrong. It is wrong. Then it's an indicator that the relationship might not succeed. Are you hearing me? So this is a warning to us. We should not be so eager to tell the other person their mistakes. Okay? So criticism then is a problem. What we should do is we should learn to affirm the other person. Learn to say good things about the other person. I once attended a seminar. It was actually on general leadership by someone from the GC a long time back. And he said something in a very interesting way. He says, usually, if you are a leader, you want to catch people making mistakes and you tell them what they have done wrong. Don't do that. He says, try to catch them doing the right thing and then praise them for it. Try to catch them doing the correct thing and praise them for it. Which means in our marriages, let's take time to notice the positive things and compliment those. And it actually works. You know, we broke off after the service. I sat outside there, and some children came. Very lovely children. You know, your children are also very warm. Some of them brought chairs, and they just started sitting there. And then one of them brought a flower, a small little flower, and gave it to me. What do you think I said? I said, wow, that's a nice flower. Thank you very much. Then what do you think happened? Went and looked for more flowers. And the other children who were there, they started bringing me flowers. Wow. And leaves. After I put this into my bag, more flowers came and I put them here. Because I said thank you to the flowers. What if I had said these are not even as nice as roses? What is the point? The point is we can encourage people by giving compliments. We can do much more by appreciating people than by criticizing or pointing out where they have gone wrong. Try this in your home and you'll see that it will work. All right? So, there's a ratio which actually has been discovered also through research. And you can check it if you want. Go and Google it. The ratio of compliments to complaints in a healthy relationship. You know what the ratio is? Do you know what the ratio is? We may be tempted to say, well, make it 50-50. Eh? They may say, make it 50-50. But it's not actually 50-50. Watch the next slide. In this next slide here, I actually did this, I think I did it this morning, was it yesterday? I put in a little bit of a graphic to show you so that you see how many compliments you need to give before a complaint can become acceptable. Let's watch this one here. And you'll see it's green. You'll see where is it? I think I need to press it again, okay? So you see, if it was that here, you would see that this is green. And this is compliments, 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 compliments. You have more than 50% compliments, 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 compliments. And only now we are getting to complaint. There should be a ratio of at least 5 compliments before you are qualified to make a complaint. In fact, the ratio, I put it as 5. They actually say it's 5.6. Now, this is not to say I want to complain about this food that she has cooked. Then I say, you're putting on a very nice wig and so on and so on. But the food is bad. No. This is genuine compliments that are not attached to wanting to make a complaint. Am I making sense? Please go and compliment each other in your relationships. It doesn't cost you anything. It can save you a lot of trouble too. It can bring you a lot of flowers. It won't be this kind of flower. It will be other kinds of flowers. Maybe the very ones that you want. Compliment. Compliment it's important. So healthy relationships need at least 5 compliments to one complaint for it to remain well. Then Gottman says, when there is criticism, relationship is bound to run into problems. What do you do when you are criticized? You defend yourself. So the second characteristic is defensiveness. So what kind of cooking is this? You know, that's criticism, right? What kind of cooking is this? So now the person who is being criticized wants to defend themselves. What do you say when that is? I can cook better if you bring better things here. So the nature of defensiveness is counter-attack. That's the nature. So what happens now, when there is criticism followed by defensiveness, tensions arise. So if the relationship is characterized by those kinds of activities, Gottman says, I know with 90% accuracy, you're not going anywhere. Okay? So that's usually it includes counter-attacks as well. So an appropriate way to break the criticism defensiveness cycle is when you choose not to defend yourself, but you say, can you help me to understand a little bit better how I can be able to do things? Okay? I'm not saying that the criticism was fine, but you're choosing to find a way of not pouring petrol. So you can find a way of diffusing the criticism which is there. So, and then the other factor that he says is there in relationships, where if it is there, then you know this relationship is going nowhere, is contempt. Contempt means looking down on the other person. It's statements that say, I already know you're not worth very much. So it may include actually calling someone some bad names like idiot or like any other of those. But sometimes it can be verbal. Well, verbal in the sense that you just say something. You just say something that says, you are not worth very much. You are not worth very much. Or it can even be body language. Someone does something and you roll your eyes. Or you have been asked to do something and you forget. You know, sometimes I get sent to the store and I forget some things. And I've written them on the phone, but I don't look on the phone. You see, I don't play with the phone. So that's the defense I can give. You say, I wasn't. So now I get home and my wife says, so where is the such and such? I'm sorry, I forgot. What if she says, I should have known that you would never do it? That's a way of saying she has already made a judgment that I'm not worth anything. No, she has never said something like that to me. But, you know, I'm giving those kinds of scenarios. In other words, your response that you give to people may show that I don't have much respect for you. And such a response will lead nowhere. So take time to compliment the other person and to appreciate what has been done instead of choosing to show contempt. And then the fourth one, I don't know why I have that as number 2. I should have changed that to number 4. It is called stonewalling. Stonewalling is, you know, that word simply means where you are blocking something, just like a stone wall. You can't go through a stone wall. So somebody says, I would like for us, let's talk about finances, and say, no, we're not talking about that. I don't want to talk about it. You have become a stone wall. That's a stone wall. Or you can stone wall by just giving someone the silent treatment. They ask, so what do you think we should do about such and such? And then you maybe just shake your head and you, in other words, you're saying, don't even approach me. That's again a way that sometimes people respond to this cycle of things. These are things which happen in our homes from time to time, and sometimes people may even walk outside the room or So, but don't do that. The problem is not going to go away. Find solutions. Find time to be able to solve something. If you're not ready to discuss something at that moment, ask politely, can we defer this to another time? And I always insist, if you request for a bit of time, you ask for a break, you should be the one who will raise the topic again. Don't wait for the other person to bring it up again because you already said, I'm not yet ready. Okay? I think that is, anyway, I think I'm winding towards closing. Here is one other reason why marriages break down. It is the fact that in actual life, and this is again a research which somebody did, in actual life, that in love feeling, the in love feeling, you know the one I'm talking about, where you feel like there are butterflies everywhere, where you just want to look at the other person and you're just excited, that feeling actually dies off after 2 years. For most relationships, it dies off after 2 years. How long have you been married? 7. All right. How long have you been married? No, I know. I'm asking the people that I already know. You told me 7, and they've been married 53 years. Now, I must explain a little bit. I must explain this a little bit. The in love feeling dies in 2 years if it is not nurtured. Left to itself, what does it do? It dies after 2 years. This is why you find many people, I want a divorce. What is the reason? There's been no adultery, there's been nothing, no violence. I no longer feel the same. You don't feel the same because the in love feeling dies. It's hormones. It's just, it happened there. It was a feeling. But love is not a feeling, it is a commitment. It is a commitment. I have a quotation there from Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, and he quotes that psychologist Dorothy Zitenov, who actually made that discovery that the in love feeling dies after 2 years. So what's the solution? Marry someone every 2 years? Is that the way? Is that the solution? What is the solution? Make things to work. It's the same thing as your cell phone. Your cell phone battery lasts 24 hours. So before the 24 hours is up, you must recharge. Keep charging it. Keep charging it. And this is why you have people who are married for 7 years and they are still going strong, or 53 years and they are still going strong. You go into their home, you also find that there's even good food, there's good laughter, there's good everything. The in love feeling is still there. Not because they just somehow found a good brand that lasts, 53 years. It's because they found the same one, 2 years. The same 2-year one that you also have. But they know how to nurture it. They know how to keep it alive. So it is important for you to have that. So I like to illustrate it with this way here. You go to a dealership and you buy a car, brand new car. And usually they give it to you with a full tank of petrol. And you drive around and you're showing your friends. And can you feel how much power? Feel how much power? Feel how much power? And you keep going. And then after some time, you say, no, I think I should go to Bloemfontein to go and show my friends there. And you get onto the freeway. And you drive, get to Beaufort West. The thing shudders and it stutters. And it doesn't move anymore. You push it by the side of the road. And you are disappointed. Why did it stop? You don't realize that it stopped because it ran out of petrol. You're just busy driving around, but you are not mindful that you should add petrol. The car will stop by the roadside, and you get disappointed. And if you are not smart enough, you will begin to walk away and say, this is why I should never have bought a Mazda. I should never have bought a maybe some of you have a Mazda. But actually, in saying this, I'm actually saying there's nothing wrong with the Mazda. Eh? I should never have bought a Mazda, and now you're going to try Toyota. Go try Toyota. But if you do the same thing, you will stop by the roadside again. The solution is not to find another make. The solution is you should keep fueling it. The problem is you should drive around a little bit and realize that fuel is getting low. And what do? You top up. And it is best if you can top up before it stalls. Because if it stalls, now you must look for a jerry can. You must look for a jerry can now, and you must find a lift to a certain place. And it's much more difficult now. Don't wait for the thing to run out. Don't wait for the thing to run out. Fuel it from time to time. How do you fuel it? How do you fuel it? Well, with petrol, in an actual vehicle, you go to the service station every once in a while and you fuel. With relationships, you need to mind what the other person likes. How did you pursue the person in the first place? You know, that girl I told you about, when I met her the second time now we were in town, I also had a little bit of money. It wasn't a lot. But when you meet with her, you're helping her with pathfinders, eh? I think, what kind of drink do you like? Now, for me, I used to like Fanta, that's what, I grew up in the villages, and we used to just have Fanta. But you begin to ask, what drink do you like? And in your mind, you're thinking she will also say Fanta, and you go buy Fanta. But she says cherry plum. I'd never drank cherry plum in all my life. Cherry plum, okay. So you go there, you ask, you don't even know what color it is because you have never. Do you have cherry plum here? They bring it out. Bring 2, please. 1 for me also. So from time to time now, you learn to bring cherry plum. That's how we used to do things. We didn't have lots of money, tons of money to do some of the fancy things you do. We also had a favorite kind of crackers that we started liking to buy. And whenever I was with her, I would try to buy it. They were called the Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its. Little crackers that have a little bit of flavor of cheese. And you begin to do that. If you know she likes to go for a walk, you go for a walk with her. Can we go to the botanical gardens? And you go there. And that's how you are pursuing. That's how you are pursuing. When you get married, continue to pursue like that. These are the things that keep your tank full. They keep your tank full. She likes chocolate. Bring a chocolate. Bring a chocolate. For no other reason other than just to surprise her. I know that, my girlfriend back then, I also found out she liked a certain kind. It's not really chocolate. It was called chomp. You know chomp. Yeah. So yeah, from time to time I would buy that. That's how you pursue, and you keep filling the tank. And I think it is important. Otherwise, if you don't, you end up abandoning your car like that one there. If the lighting was good, you would have seen that it's now an old car there, abandoned for a long time. But perhaps just abandoned because it ran out of petrol and it's not worth it. So that is important. It's important. And I'm saying don't abandon your car just because it ran out of petrol. Fuel it. That's why those are the words there. I'm sure you can't read them because of the lighting that is there. And so finally, this is my last slide here that I want to share with you. I had a beautiful garden at one time. You know, there's a time, sometimes you do some work. So we actually had a garden. This was a garden that we had right here at Helderberg. We had a good garden. And time came when things just became a bit so busy. I couldn't, spend much time in there, and I couldn't have help. And these plants, to keep them the way they are, you need to water them. You need to remove the weeds. You need to put manure. You need to be there almost every day, or maybe at least every other day. You must do that. But time comes when exams are pressing, and then after the exams, you decide, I'm going to go home for holiday. I go home for holiday maybe for about a month, and then I come back. What was a beautiful garden was now something else. Gradually, if you keep looking at the picture, you will begin to see that changes were beginning to take place there in that garden. And you see, the surprising thing, this is the one thing which surprises me. I don't know whether this thing is moving. Well, maybe it is. But anyway, I think you understand the illustration. The surprising thing is that weeds don't need to be cared for. I've never seen weeds where they say, this one is being attacked by a fungus. You need to spray it. No, weeds are never attacked by fungus. Weeds don't need watering. Weeds don't need for you to look for a special seed. The place where you cleared everything, a month later, a weed is growing there. You don't even know where the seed came from. Weeds just happen naturally. They don't need an effort. And this is true also for weeds in marriages. All you need to do is to just neglect the marriage, and the weeds will just happen. But for good things to happen, for you to have cabbages, you can't just wait and say, but we grew cabbages here last year. I hope there will be seeds for cabbages. I hope they will come up. They won't. You must go look for a good seed. You must dig the soil properly. You never have to dig for weeds. Weeds just happen. Even in the tarred road, you find weeds. They just grow. But the good things, your carrots, all these other things, you need to prepare the ground. You need to water it. They need constant care. And that is true also for marriage. We cannot live our marriages and hope that automatically things will just happen by themselves. So if there is anything which I'm leaving with you, just as I did in the morning, I'm asking you to pursue your love. I'm asking you to make an effort to make your marriage to work, because that's what God wants you to do. May God bless you. I raced through. I didn't give you a chance for questions. I don't know whether we have a chance for that. Maybe, I will leave that to the elder, but may God bless you. Amen.